So welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to start the process of signing the user in. Now, the first thing we need to do to prepare the sign-in process is manage our GPP sign-in shared singleton instance. This is something that is a singleton, and you can access it from any class. And before you use it to sign the user in, you'll want to set a few properties with it. Now, there are a number of places you could do this. Your app delegate might be a good place because you can make sure that everything is set before anything else is loaded. However, just to keep our code a little simpler, I think we can do this in our intro view controller as well. So I'm going to do this here. Once we're in our view controller, the first thing we're going to want to do is import the Google Plus /Google+ header. This will include everything we need to access sign-in. So next, I'm going to create a method called, let's call it initialize GPP sign-in. And this is where we're going to access that shared singleton instance and set up all the properties for it. Now, the first thing we're going to want to do is create a string that references our client ID. So NSString, game client ID, and this is that string that I told you to copy and paste a couple of lessons ago. But I also told you that if you didn't copy and paste it, like I didn't, you can go back to your Google Play Developer Console and grab it. So I'm going to do that. Let's go to Chrome here, and under play.google.com/app/publish, I'm going to click the little game controller icon on the left. Here's Guess My Number. Under linked apps, again, I can view the iOS linked app, and here's my OAuth 2 client ID. So I'll just copy and paste this and put it in here. And let me fix a typo here. There we go. This kind of feels like maybe something that I'll eventually want to pull into a constants file or something somewhere, but I suppose this is good enough for now. I'm feeling a little lazy. Next, let's grab our sign-in object. So we'll just reference this as a local variable, sign-in, and this equals, we'll get that from the GPP sign-in shared instance singleton method. So this will grab our Google Plus sign-in object that we can then set various properties on. So for instance, I can do signin.clientID equals our game client ID. We're also going to want to set the scopes. Remember that these are the special powers that our valet key has that gives it access to certain things in the user's account. So for this, signin.scopes equals, and this is an array, so we'll call NSArray array with objects. And we want https://www.googleapis.com/auth/games. And yes, I do realize we should probably make this a constant somewhere in our library. And we'll leave it like this. Even though we're only including one object, I still like to use the plural array with objects method because at some point we'll probably be asking for more scopes. We also need to set our language. And this we can usually get by going to nslocale, preferred languages, object at index 0. We want to set our delegate to self. And this is basically telling our sign-in object where it's going to report that the user has finished signing in. And finally, sign-in should fetch Google user ID will be yes. What this does is it tells the Google sign-in object that we're going to need the user's ID. You'll recall back in our earlier presentation when we got our access token back from the system, we then used that to make another call saying, okay, now that I have this OAuth token, who is this user? And the system will return a user ID. This is essentially a shortcut saying, hey, OAuth 2 library, since this is something that we request fairly often, why don't you just go ahead and make a call to get the user's ID as soon as they've authorized our application. This is kind of nice, and it turns out this is also required by the game service. It's going to need the user ID, and it's going to grab it from this sign-in object. So you probably haven't used this setting before, but it is required to get game services working. Now you'll notice that at this point we're getting a warning, and this is because we've set sign-in delegate to self, but Xcode is telling us, hey, wait a minute, this class isn't a GPP sign-in delegate. So we can fix that. So up here at the top of our viewcontroller.m file, next to this interface line, we're going to say that this class conforms to the GPP sign-in delegate. At this point, we get another warning saying, well, okay, you've said that it conforms to the GPP sign-in delegate protocol, but you haven't implemented this required finish with auth error method, which is required in this GPP sign-in delegate protocol. So we can do that as well. So we'll add finish with auth error. And basically, this is the call that our sign-in object is going to make. It's part of the delegate protocol that says, hey, the user is finished signing in. Hopefully there is an auth object attached to it. And if not, here's an error object that explains what went wrong. So for right now, let's just print something out to our log file. So nslog, I am finished with auth. Auth is this object, and error is this. And we'll add our auth and error objects so that hopefully we get something interesting in the debug output. So now we can run this. And nothing interesting happens. Well, that's because I didn't actually sign the user in anywhere. We've initialized our GPP sign-in object, but then we haven't actually done anything with it. Luckily, this is an easy fix, and we will tackle that in our next lesson.